2003 F350 4-wheel drive, ball joints. This is a job. Yeah. Well, you need to jack it up before you need to do that. You don't have an impact. Basically, you need to loosen your lug nuts, raise it up and support it, and then remove your front tires. Remove front tires. Those were a 21 millimeter. Next, I'm going to remove the tie rod ends so I can turn the steering back and forth and don't have to worry about turning the whole suspension. Remove the cotter pin out of the tie rod end, castle nut, then remove the castle nut. It's a 21 millimeter. And then you'll need your 3-pound sledge, and you'll need to hit the knuckle right here. And break this loose. Okay? And it's loose. Alright. Okay, get the tie rod end off. Turn the steering all the way in. And you want to loosen up the nuts for the caliper bolts. Take the caliper bolts out. Those are 5/8 or a 16. And then you need to get the caliper bracket bolts loose. Get them out. And then you can take the whole thing off as a unit. And then you can separate it. Because when you try pulling this off right now, it's kind of inside there on the pads. There's little notches sticking up and get stuck on the pistons. So I'll let you know what size that is. I'm pretty sure that's a 21 also. So let's see how that baby is. 21 5/8 16. Okay, got the bolts out, copper bolts, copper bracket bolts. Undo your sensor hose from here, and then you want to pry off the caliper assembly. Take a screwdriver in there and pry it off. Okay, make sure you keep an eye out and grab hold of it with your hand, support it so it doesn't fling off of there. Okay, swing the caliper up onto the spring so it's up out of the way. And next you want to remove your rotor. If your rotor is frozen on there, put some pinch on and let it sit, and then hit around between the studs with a hammer. If you're keeping the rotor, you don't want to hit the pad surface there. So if you're not going to keep the rotor, then yeah, you can hit this part with a hammer. Okay. Ours is loose because I've had it apart before and I put anti-seize on it. Okay. Next, we want to do is totally take this ABS sensor harness loose, unplug it there, take it off the frame and off the knuckle. And these are, I think, 8 millimeter go-headed bolts. So take them out and undo them from up here and there so the wire harness is loose. And then we're going to take off the cap after that. Get the whole harness loose, come up to the connector, then unplug it. You got to push this piece in, and you can pull it off from the other end of the connector. Okay. All right. Now you need some needle nose pliers. Needle nose pliers. Stick it in there. You want to squeeze these together. Get them out of the notch. Once you get them out of the notch, then you can. You gotta do this with 2 hands. Can't do it with 1. You just squeeze these together, and then with the other hand you wiggle the hub. Pull the whole thing off. Okay? Make sure it doesn't come apart. Alright? Next, you get a snap ring inside here. The big fat snap ring actually. And you need a really good pair of snap ring pliers. Okay. The new style Harbor Freights will work, but the old style don't. Because they're just not strong enough. Okay, I have a snap-on pair. I'll get in there and remove it. Okay, I got it. It's pretty thick. It's strong. Okay? And there's a plastic fake nut in there. All it is a shim. Okay, we'll pull that out too. Okay, and then set them aside somewhere. Put them by your hub so you don't forget them. Okay, you take them out. You got 2 washers and a plastic nut. Okay, that's exactly how they came out. Okay, 2 washers, plastic, and a snap ring. Okay, then you need to push your knuckle all the way in. Then you need to get a socket to get on your nuts. There's 4 of them, okay? There's like studs sticking out from the hubs. There's a nut on each side here. I have to find out what size they are. Okay, they're a 21. But you gotta use a 21 chrome or a 13/16, okay? Because when you push the socket in there, it hits part of the drive shaft, half shaft. I'll get you a light in there to show you what the heck I'm talking about. Okay. Let's see. I always work in the dark, so. Alright. That piece right there. So this hits it, so you just gotta tap it on. Okay? Tap it onto the nut. Then you can get it in there. Then like this one here, I'm gonna have to turn the shaft so I can get to the nut. Okay? And then the nut's up there and pushes right in there. Okay? So now what I need to do is get my impact in here and get on it and remove it. Remove the nut and remove this whole stud. So, okay. See how close that nut is to that flange? That's why it's hard to determine what size socket it fits in there. So if you use a 21 chrome or a 13/16 chrome, just get it over top of it and tap it on with a hammer. Okay? Okay, I got all 4 of them off. They came with the studs. I'd rather have the studs come out because then the studs will hold me up and possibly have corrosion in there and won't allow me to take it apart. But I've had these apart a couple times to do wheel bearings on them and ball joints before because this truck is way overloaded. It's a welding rig and it's probably hauling like 2,000, probably a good 2 ton in the back of it with the welder and all of his toolboxes and equipment. So he's way over. And he goes through brakes like crazy. Okay, so it's coming loose, it's coming out. If yours is not coming out, you have to tap on both sides with the sludge, 3-pound sludge. Okay, and get it off. All right, let's get this one off and then I'll tell you what's going on. Okay, the hub came right off. Simple. Okay, it's one whole unit. Inside here is your half shaft, the outer of it. Front drive shaft, whatever, not drive shaft, axle shaft. And then we got this bad boy right here. This is on the inside of there and it goes on this shaft. But it's usually in there pretty darn good. So you have to pry the shaft out this way and this seal comes with it. Okay, so what you want to do is clean up inside there, remove any ridges or anything you feel inside there, and then we're going to have to get over here on the U-joint side with a big pry bar and pry that shaft out and take that seal with it. And most of the time you'll damage it and sometimes you don't. But I keep these on hand so I don't have to go run to the parts store and ruin my day by running to the parts store. Because I work on this truck quite a bit, so I have extra parts for it. So well, let's get going on that. Okay, see how it's coming? It might come apart in pieces. Like this piece might come loose first. Put it up on the bench. What you want to do is get your pry bar in behind here, because there's a lip right here. Good, nice lip. It's part of the axle itself, so you can pry against that part, like so. Once you get good grip on that, once you get a good grip right here on that piece, you're about to pry it out. It starts out prying against right here against the U-joint part, but then you get enough, you get your pry bar in there like that. And I got the next size bigger pry bar than this one, and it works perfect for it. You get it loose. See, it's how much more bigger than it, more beefier. Oh. Okay. And this one does the trick, gets that out. Okay. So when you get that out of there, you pull the whole axle out, and be careful to support this end that goes inside the axle tube, so it doesn't kind of like drop against the seal that's inside there as you're dragging it out the best you can. Okay, give it a little bit of help. Okay, stick your hand in there or a pry bar in there to help support it a little bit. Okay. Okay, this is what it looks like coming out. Looks like I need a new seal this time. It's getting pretty bad. And you need to straighten this flange out too. Just straighten it out. There's a little bit of bend in it, but okay. Then there's some dust seals that go on the end of the axle tubes. I think I ordered those. I'm not sure. I have to double check. See how long it sticks in there? That's a biggie. Okay. Okay. Remove your cotter pin. Okay. The bottom one doesn't have a cotter pin. It's just a big old nut. Okay. So we'll remove that cotter pin. We'll remove that nut. And we'll remove that nut. Okay. I couldn't remove the cotter pin. I couldn't get it out, so I cut it off and I hammered a socket on there. I hammered 1 1/8 inches. That might be a little bit too big, but I got it off. So now I gotta work on the bottom nut. Get that one out. Put some bend trim on that and let it soak. 1 5/16. You gotta get down there with a breaker bar with an cheater on it and break it loose. And then you can use your ratchet. Okay, I got it loose. Top one loose, bottom one loose, sprayed them with penetrant. I thread the bottom nut on there, just 2 threads worth, so when it comes apart, it doesn't fall on the floor. So you want to hit right here with your sledge, and right here with your sledge to break them loose. Okay, then you can tap down on that one a little bit and see how it goes. Okay, banging on the knuckle down here, breaking that taper loose, banging on that one up here on the top, trying to break this sleeve loose. This sleeve is just like a round little cone, goes down inside there and it smooshes onto the stud. So I could try to get a chisel under there and hit it, hopefully it'll pry up, but it wasn't working. So I broke that taper loose on the bottom and I started hitting the stud and it went down. So now I'm going to remove my nut and see what happens. Okay, here's the knuckle. This one's got a snap ring in it, so I got to take that snap ring off and I got to press this ball joint that way. And this ball joint's got to be pushed that way. Okay? And this one does not have a snap ring. The snap ring was in there too tight. Had to hit it out with a screwdriver and a hammer. Got the snap ring off and I hit it out with my hammer. Got it moving with the sledge. And I finished it off with a smaller head of a ball peen. bigger ball peen. Okay, this one wouldn't fit inside here. Okay, what you can do is put this on there like that and hit the sledge onto the ball peen and push it out. I got that one out. Now I gotta get this one out. I'm probably gonna just press it out with my ball joint tool. That'd be a lot cleaner. Yep. This is a messy job. Okay, I got my ball joint tool on there. I got my spacer and my big heavy piece, the one with the hole in it. So that I can push the ball joint. It will come out through the end here. It'll be sticking out, okay? All I do is tighten this end up. It's moving. Boom, bam, that fast. Okay, clean up your ball joint surfaces. Clean the top part here because the ball joint pushes down into. Same thing with this one, is where snap ring goes to. And down here is where the ball joint pushes into and rests. So you don't want to be a big rust ridge in there. You want to clean that up so it sticks down as far as possible. Okay. Okay, I'm using the tool to push against the ball joint. I pressed it in and I used this one with the concave side. Okay. Not this one, because this one's got the hole in it. I got the other one is solid. I tightened it up and I bombed it out. So now I got to remove my tool and see how far it's sticking down there. If you look inside here, my screwdriver fits underneath it, so it's not bombed out all the way, because it was bottoming out on this. So I have to get this from my other kit. It's a little spacer, and I'll use that in there. Okay. Okay, it's bottomed out. I can't get my screwdriver under it, so it's all the way down. Okay. We're gonna take out that plug for the grease zerk, get the angle grease zerk, and grind it down. Try not to touch the ball part, but grind it down so the U joint don't hit it. Okay. Grind it down now. Better safe than sorry. Okay. Okay. I got my salad. Got my ball joint. Got a spacer. And my salad with the hole on it so the ball joint sticks through. Okay? So now I'm gonna do is tighten it up. I'm gonna have to re-grip because I need to have my ball joint stick through so I can put the snap ring on it. I don't have enough thread. That's why I gotta do it twice. Okay, re-gripped. Put my one spacer on there for my other one. Okay? Best I could center it. Make sure your ball joint's down all the way. You can't get a screwdriver in there. And make sure you get your snap ring groove showing, okay? If your grease zerk don't face the direction you want it to face, loosen it up, tighten it, loosen it up, tighten it, loosen it up, tighten it. Each time you do that, it gains a little bit until you're actually going to bottom it out. And you do want to bottom it out because it gives you an extra amount, a little bit of clearance, okay? So our ball joints are in. Now we gotta do is clean up inside here. Also get this rust off of there for that seal. And then we need to go down there and clean that up. Also the tube where that seal would rise, because I'm gonna put a new seal on there too. Okay, clean up your hole. Had a lot of rust ridge in there. Clean this up best you can. Get this piece out with your chisel and your hammer. Chisel it up, comes out. Clean it up. Get that rust off in that groove there. Clean up inside there. Put some anti-seize in there. Put that on there lightly. I'll leave it off to the side when you put your ball joints in there. When you get your ball joints in there, then you can put it on, okay? But clean it up for now. Okay, bring your knuckle over here and stick your upper ball joint up through there. And then stick your lower one up through and put your nut on the lower one. And that'll hold the knuckle up for you. Depending on what time of upper ball joint you got, the seal is loose. So put the seal on here on your stud before you put the knuckle up in there, because then you ain't gonna be able to get the seal on there. So this seal is loose from the ball joint. So now I got the lower nut started. Now I can put my top one in with my little spacer. I'll put some anti-seize all around it. Okay. Put it on there, get it started, tap it down with a hammer. Remember, the flat goes in the front with that flat. That flat goes with this flat, sorry. Okay, and tap it down. All right, see here. Yeah, go down, go right in there. All right, now you can tighten your nuts up. Now once you got that spacer all the way down, you can get a pair of channel locks and work your way around with that seal. You know, push the seal down, squeeze it like that, all the way around, work yourself around. Okay, and that's good. And make sure you put that one flat spot or the notch on. Make sure it's pointing that way. Okay, so the grease flows out and go that way, away from the brakes. Okay, now we're gonna put our nuts on and tighten them. Okay, I tightened the bottom one first. And that one was 1 5/16". And I tightened it like the Germans would say, guten tight. And same thing, and then I did the top one, I did the same thing, I tightened it guten tight. Alright, because you gotta push that sleeve down in there, and you wanna make sure it's tight, because you don't wanna just assume it's tight and then later on it loosens up on you because you didn't tighten it up enough. Push that sleeve in there. Okay? Okay, now you got it all together. I'm gonna grease it. Okay? In order to get this seal off of here, I had to cut it in half. Okay? Cut it in half in pieces. And cut the outer boot, this piece off, and then I had to take a screwdriver and hammer that piece off. This piece came off last. But once I got that outer black piece, big piece off, then it was easy to get this off. Just hit it with a screwdriver and a hammer, you know, at an angle. So that's what it did. Did a little bit of damage there. It's okay. Straighten your shield out best you can. I'm pretty sure I have to put this seal on first here before I put it into the axle, into the axle and the differential. So I have to put some lube on my seal and on here, and find something to bang on to get it on there. Okay. I ain't gonna get that in there. Put it in the knuckle. Okay, this thing was a mother to get off. Yeah, here. This goes under here, like so. Forgot to take that off, so I forgot to show you that. When you took the two washers and the plastic nut and the snap ring, this went under them. I forgot to show you that. But anyway, I got mad, so I had to hit the seal on here, just like a regular seal, pound it all the way around. And then I used the ball peen hammer to hit my other ball peen hammer. Small one and then a large one, okay? That's what got it on there. I tried doing every other way to do it, but got one side started and then worked my way around just like a regular seal and hit it on there, okay? So next, put some grease around our seal here, and then we'll slide the axle in the tube. Put some grease on that tube and around where the seal rides also, okay? Getting late. I forgot to tell you about this seal. Okay, take a screwdriver and pound this one off and then clean this up. We have to put our new seal on there. And there's our new seal. Okay, that goes on there like that. Or like that. Yeah, like that. Goes on there like that. Okay? So clean that up and we'll put the seal on there. Put it on with a little ball peen hammer. Get up in there. See the metal? Hit the metal with the ball peen all the way around. So it's on there. It looks good. Alright. Now I'm gonna get some grease, put it on that end of the shaft. Now throw some around this and around that. And then I'm gonna put it in. Alright. I got it in there. Lined it up. Tapped it in with a hammer. The seal didn't pop off, thank goodness. Now I'm going to, yeah, that's right. That plastic big washer went here and then the hub bearing. Sorry. All right. So I'm gonna wipe up my hub bearing, get all my rust off of it. All the rust chunks. You can see it. Okay, clean it up. Put that spacer back on there. Put some grease on it. And put it up back in there. Okay, I put that big plastic washer onto the shaft. I put the notches towards the shaft, towards the seal. And then I put my hub bearing on. And that's as far as I could push it on because I need to get that whole shaft in farther. So I put on my my stud nuts from my hub bearing. And I'm going to tighten them up and then draw that hub bearing in there nice and tight. Okay. I tightened all the hub bearing bolts, nuts, studs. Torqued them to 130 foot-pounds. Double check your specs. Good and tight with the impact. And I drew the axle in farther and pushed it in here farther. So them seals, they actually look pretty darn good in there. Looks good. Make sure your grease joint, the grease zerk don't hit the shaft. Okay. Should be able to turn it without hitting it. Got plenty of gap. Okay. Now we got these. Okay. I'm gonna put a little bit of grease on them too. Just like that. And one thing is just to make sure this snap ring is in the groove. You know. You can spin it, the snap ring, then you're in it, okay? But most likely it's in there. Because it ain't moving in or out, okay? So now we got our ABS wire. We need to fasten that up and get it up out of the way. Okay? Okay, I put the bolt on there, I fastened it, and I just threw the wire over there until we get the caliper on and we can fasten it all the way up the caliper hose. Okay? So next would be our brakes. Another hurdle. Okay, I'm gonna put new brake pads and rotors on, so I need my hubs clean. These are clean. They had anti-seize on them, so I'm gonna put a little bit more anti-seize on them, then I'm gonna put my rotors on. Okay? But before you put your rotors on, you wanna clean them with soap and water or Windex or degreaser. Don't use brake clean, okay? Brake clean contaminates the brake pads. Alright. So that's where we're going now. If you're reusing, not putting brakes on, reusing your rotor, make sure it's clean on the inside of the rotor also on the hub part. and clean all the rust off of it, and then put some anti-seize on there. Okay, gonna get the brake pads out of the caliper brackets and get the bundle clips or hardware out of there. And this brake pad is stuck in there. That's because the brake brackets, caliper brackets, they corrode, rust, and they expand and they tighten up the pads so they don't move very good, so you get a brake problem with that. Okay, so we're gonna take it all apart. Okay, we're gonna clean them up, get them nice and shiny. Okay, and then we're gonna paint them. Okay, see, we got them all cleaned up. And we're gonna paint them, and then we're gonna put some lube on our caliper slide pins. Okay, brackets are painted. Now I got some lube for my caliper slide pins. I'm gonna take them out and put them on there, wipe them all over. Okay, if the slide pins are frozen, replace the caliper bracket and the caliper. Do both sides though, make it equal. Okay, now we're gonna mount this. Got ahead of myself. I need to put the bundle clips hardware into the caliper. Okay, well, just like that. Okay. Okay, I got the caliper brackets on. Tighten the bolts up evenly. These are the 21s, the big monsters. And you torque them back to 120 foot-pounds. Double check your torque specs. I just give you an idea. Okay. Now, get the caliper over here. We need to push them pistons in. We'll use an old pad and a C-clamp. Okay. Okay. There's the caliper. Old pad, C-clamp, tighten it up, push the pistons in. That's what she looks like, okay? Next, okay, time to put your pads in. These pads, gonna put it at the bottom, right on there. You're gonna go over to the top, push in, going in at an angle, and then you straighten them out, and push them in. Because you're pushing in on that spring, okay? And we're in there. And do the same thing with the inner one. Remember I was telling you about taking them off together as both the caliper and the bracket, because there's little notches in the pad. These are the notches, and they get stuck on the pistons. So when you're trying to pull the caliper off, when you're doing your brakes, you can't get them out because they're hitting those notches. That's why you take the bracket and the caliper off at the same time, and then when you get them in your hand, then they fall apart. Okay. Okay, the pads are in there. Now you gotta put these funky, stupid springs in there that don't serve any kind of purpose whatsoever. Maybe for the first month they might work. Okay, so you put them both in there and hold on to the pads together. Then we'll get your other hand down here and put the caliper on there. And then you can get your bolt started, but make sure your line's not all twisted. Okay, make sure it looks legit. In case you didn't know, there's 2 of those springs, okay? Alright, when you're putting your caliper bolts in, make sure your slide pins, alright, because they're hex heads. Make sure they fit in the little notches, top and bottom, because if they're not in there properly, you won't be able to get the bolt started. So if you might be having a problem getting the bolt started, they might not be on the flats for the hexes, okay? So you get your bolts in there, tighten them up to 20 foot-pounds, double check your torque spec. Make sure you look at your line, make sure it's not all crazy. Now's the time to put your brake line back into the little harnesses. Okay, so we're going to do that, and then I'll put my hub back center on and my tie rod in. Okay, I got my lines all connected, put behind it onto the frame, and I got it zip tied up, looped it up, put it in there. Now I can put my hub in. Put a little bit of grease around my seal. Put it on there. Take my vice grips out to hold my rotor straight. Pushes right on. Turn this way and that way. And then you can put your snap ring in. Make sure it's in all the way. Bottoms out, and you hear it click in. Okay. Should be loose a little bit. Okay. Now it's time for tie rod. Now I'll pick up the tie rod and I'll put it on top of the knuckle. Okay, put your tie rod on, tie rod in, then put your castle nut on, tighten it up, line up your cotter pin holes, put a cotter pin in it, and you're all set on this side. Now you can put your tire on this side and tighten the lug nuts to 140 foot-pounds. If you're gonna do this other side, the exact same way, okay? One big pain in the butt, I feel for you. I still gotta do it myself. And it's 10:30 at night. So, all right. Good luck. Thank you if I helped you out. Subscribe to me, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Hey, remember I said about these washers on underneath here? There's a washer plastic nut. No, it's the washer plastic nut washer snap ring. I put them in wrong, so I had to switch them. So just so you know, I had that wrong. Washer plastic nut snap ring. Washer plastic nut washer snap ring. Just like the way it's in my hand. Okay. All right, sorry about that. Okay.